These two rooms right here are actually the original two rooms that were first built. This was in 1840, and it was built by James Campbell, and he's one of the original Texas Rangers that founded Seguin. Of paranormal activity, this room is the most active. This is what, we've had a lot of psychics and a lot of paranormal teams come in, and they've captured a lot of evidence in this room. And for some reason, the mirror. Every psychic is drawn to the mirror, and they've captured EVPs with it actually saying, I'm in the mirror, you can see me. So this room is the one that's most active downstairs. This is actually, again, one of the original rooms for the stagecoach, and then it became a ballroom. I don't tell too many people this because I also have children and grandchildren, but this is the room, and I could actually hear a voice saying, danger, danger. You know, and I believe in angels, and so I believe that she was just telling me, so I thought someone from outside was going to harm me. So I grabbed my scraper, the wood scraper in my hand, and I'm waiting for somebody to come in, and when I did this, I got hit in the head, and I turned around, and it was a handful of screws that had been thrown at my head. And I turned around, and there was no one, and everything calmed down. So that's the only thing that's happened to me in here. But as far as paranormal people, I haven't had anybody tell me anything, but that did happen to me, and we saved the screws. And now what you're entering is now this, it's actually the third portion of the building. Okay, first, then the second, this is third. This is the main hotel. After it was a hotel, then they made it into an apartment in 1930s. So when they made it into an apartment, the main floor was the home of the Chambers family, the Inez Lanham family. And so this was their home. And then upstairs were the apartments in 1930. But before that, this was actually a portion of the the dining area, and so certain walls will be coming down when we restore it. So it was the office, the smoke room, and then a giant dining room. So this is part of the dining room. But when it was the Lanham family, this was her sewing room. So we call it Inez's sewing room. For some reason, this is what they like to do. The contractors come in and they get a lot of dust and everything, and so they'll come in the dust and they'll draw a circle, and then we'll come back and they'll ask if you're here, then leave us a marking, and we'll come back and there's actually it actually looks like a strip. This room, although it's just a bathroom, when Chaplain Rob came to bless the house, did you know the story about Chaplain Rob? Okay, that was our biggest experience. Was because of the cats, we found dozens of dead cats in the animal shelter, the Indian raid shelter down there, and we think that they actually accidentally got into rat poisoning. That's what we think. And so we found tons of skeletons from cats. So I had Chaplain Rob come over and bless the house. Well, when he came over to bless the house, he also had an Episcopalian reverend that came over to visit us for fun. And so we had them both come over and bless the house. Well, it was beautiful watching these two religions do it and everything. And after they left, the house went crazy. It was weird. We all went back into the adobe room, and I came out here and chairs were turned over. All the lamps were turned over. They broke my antique lamp. And then we had put this into the wall. We had actually picked this up and put it into the wall, and when we came out, it was actually thrown and over there. So there's no way it could have just gone down and walked over. So this was one of the things that were thrown down too when the chaplain came. And this is also the room where you can hear the screaming. We actually hear a woman. It's more like a cry. It's like a like that, but you can only hear it here, and we think it's actually coming from upstairs. This is what everybody just goes gaga over for. And when Jim and I were here, we actually got to watch it. We had a paranormal team come, and Jim and I were in the other room, and he ran and he's like, come. And so we ran in here, we're like, what? And he goes, watch the ball. And so we sat here, and it was Robbie and Wiley, and Robbie goes, "Can you move it again, hon? Can you move it again?" And it wiggles back and forth like that and starts to roll. And this is the room where you can hear the hello. It's the prettiest. Yeah, she drags it out. It's like she's hoping for an echo back. Hello, and she's waiting, and we hear that all the time. For some reason, the door keeps opening up on its own. So we're like, okay, it won't open up on its own. So we added the lock. Well, now it rattles instead of opening. This is Captain Jack Hayes, John Jack Hayes, and he was a very, very famous Texas Ranger, and he had a sweetheart named Susan Calvert, and he was courting her, and during their courtship, she decided to go on a horse ride with another gentleman. And so he came back and he found out that she went on a horse ride when he told her not to. So he took that new suitor and he went over to the hanging tree and he hung him that way, and she married him, and she married him here. This is the building that Susan Calvert and Captain Jack Hayes were married in, right here. We have had a guest, and she called me up and she said, "I just want to let you know what happened to me." And she said, "I was sleeping and I actually felt pressure on my bed as if someone was sitting next to me." She said, "I was horrified." She said, "Finally, I had to open my eyes to see who it was, and when she opened up, there was nobody there." So she said, "And I felt the pressure and the movement of somebody sitting on my bed." And then we have another lady who actually had the covers removed from her while she was sleeping. So that was his room. Everybody sees the figure in there. Even before we knew what it was, people were telling us that they saw it. So this is William's room. This is where everybody sees him standing in the window, and every once in a while, which I thought was unusual because I've heard a lot of when a spirit comes and you feel coldness. This one is heat. It's a hot spot. And then you'll talk to Robbie. Robbie got this horrible taste in his mouth, and he started feeling just like nastiness in his mouth, and it was just foaming, and he's like, "I don't understand what this is," and his eyes started burning, and we had to actually take him out and let him refresh himself and rinse his mouth out and everything. And I asked him, I said, "What did it taste like?" He said, "Like gunpowder." And so we know that William was shot in the head, and so he was thinking maybe that's what we were sensing. But this was his room, and that's Emma. That's the little girl that he killed.
So why did he live here?
Well, what it was is he was like a substitute druggist, pharmacist. And so when the druggist in New Braunfels needed help, when he wasn't working here in Seguin, he would go help the people in New Braunfels as well. But they actually lived in Cibolo. So during this time he was working, he sent his wife over to New Braunfels to sleep with them. So he decided to stay close and stay at the Magnolia Hotel before he went over. And he's the one that convinced her to stay that night because he had it all planned. When this was a hotel, this is the only bathroom that was used.
Gosh.
Now this is the room that I caught the shadow with. Okay, and then we had a woman who was a very famous madam here in Seguin, and they called her the Pink Rosebud. And although she lived just right across the street, it's an empty lot now. She lived right there. She would bring her clients Yeah, I hate saying that because she was such a really nice lady. But she was considered an escort. And so whenever they had like a big party or something like that, she would attend the parties with the gentlemen. But this was also where she would bring her clients. And so this was her room. This is the room where everyone sees her standing like this, looking out the window. This is the room where Robbie got actually hit in the head with the same screws. They're almost exactly the same kind. So he got hit in the head, he brought it down, and I was like, wow, Robbie, I didn't tell you, but it's the same screws that hit me in the head too.
Wow.
But so he felt it up here. And this is where all the activity is. Everybody feels, sees, hears, takes pictures. We have yet to go up in the attic. We have no idea what's in the attic. So we had a psychic came and she said something really bad had happened in this bathroom, and we have actually seen a figure walk across the room right there, and this is where my sister and I caught the ice breeze. At night, everybody calls this the creepy room, that you have the really awful feeling. And we also have a very unpleasant scent that will follow you around, and it will come and then it will go. And I don't know how to explain it. It's hideous. This is the room where the other girl she actually got scratched. We got a really good picture of that one too. So this room was the scratching. They adopted us. Come here. Come, baby. Hey, baby. Come, baby. So this is where Dr. Reed would have hung out with all the children and made their bullets and sharpened their knives. And they had these open for when the Indians would come. They could put their guns there. But we have found tons of toys. And the reason for these is because it's said that during the Civil War, they hid all of their jewelry and all their, valuables somewhere, and it's supposed to still be here, hidden somewhere. So during the time when the house was empty, people were coming in and just digging, looking for the buried treasure. And the name of the paranormal, the shadow figure has been seen in the other portion of the cellar, and you can actually see it moving, back and forth as if it was, pacing.